Okay, in this section we're going to look at some definitions. This is just simply vocabulary, and on the test this will be matching. I'm not necessarily going to read the vocabulary verbatim. So as a recommendation, you should take a 3x5 note card, and on the front side put the definition, on the back side define it. And so like anatomy, write that on the front of the 3x5 card, and on the back side you would say something like, is the study of the structure of the human body. Now, I have human in parentheses because this is human anatomy and physiology, but as you can imagine there's also animal, study of structure and function, and so on. So for our purposes, the human body, be able to define systemic anatomy, regional anatomy, surface anatomy, anatomic imaging, and physiology. You're also welcome to pause the screen at times if you need to catch up by writing down the terms and so on one side of the note card and then on the back side. With physiology, here's a test hint. If I have things underlined, bold, italic, I mean just loud, jumping off the page at you, these are test questions. Okay, so throughout the semester, as you come across these in the notes, just tell yourself that is a guaranteed test question. Okay, now all these definitions are going to be on the test in the form of matching. And physiology, this one I do want to focus on because this is a huge concept that I incorporate into my practice with my patients. It is a personal philosophy of mine, which is simply structures are dynamic rather than static. The human body and the tissues and all that needs to be in motion. It needs to be moving. The more sedentary you are, the more harmful it is for you in the long run. In fact, you really shouldn't sit more than 40 to 60 minutes without getting up and moving around. And as you can imagine, our culture is pretty sedentary. You know, we do a lot of sitting. We sit in the car, we sit at work, we sit at home. You know, it takes a lot of discipline to really get up and move around. And you have to be mindful and intentful to do that. Okay, on this page you'll notice I have physiology broken down into its the Latin, and most medical terms have a prefix, suffix, and root word. And as another study hint, I recommend that on words you don't know, look them up. Like, break the word down through its prefix, suffix, and root word and find out the meaning. Like, for example, arthritis. Arthro means joint, itis means inflammation of. Appendicitis, appendix, itis, inflammation, so inflammation of your appendix. Amniocentesis, centesis is surgical puncture of, and this would be of the amniotic fluid. And on we could go with prefix, suffix, and root word. So I'd encourage you to break down a word, because this will really help you as part of medical terminology to study for tests, for future boards, because that means they can throw any word at you and you'll know it because you'll be able to break it down. I mean, you may not know the word as it sits there in front of you, but you're like, wait a minute, I know my prefix, suffix, and root word, so I'm going to break this down, and then you can figure it out. So just as another study tip and a recommendation, build your own medical terminology library by breaking down a word, looking it up, what does it mean? Okay, organisms, be able to identify what organisms share as common characteristics, and that's life. And the essentials to life are organization, metabolism, responsiveness, growth, development, and reproduction. Okay, be able to define these on a test. So this will be another time to write these down on your note card. Okay, homeostasis is that I broke it down for you there. So homeo, same, stasis, standing. This is the body's ability to stay in equilibrium. Another concept and philosophy that I try to incorporate into my practice for my patients and for myself, and that is doing the best you can to keep your body in balance. And if we detect things are starting to slip out of homeostasis, I'm going to intervene with the necessary tools and applications and treatments and so forth to bring them back into homeostasis. If not, it can lead to disease. If your body is out of homeostasis for long enough over time, it will lead to significant dysfunction. Negative feedback mechanism. Now that word negative obviously has a negative connotation to it, but in this case it's actually a good thing. Our negative feedback mechanism is what keeps us in homeostasis. So don't let that word negative confuse you on this one. This is actually a good thing. The mechanisms within our bodies to keep us in homeostasis, keep us in normal range. Positive feedback mechanism is those mechanisms that take us further away from homeostasis, and this can eventually lead to death. In fact, this is what hospitals and emergency medicine practitioners are really good at, is seeing people and treating people that are in positive feedback mechanisms, and they're trying to get them stable, trying to get them back into homeostasis. And then once they're stable, down the road, then they see someone like me, myself in my office, or a practitioner like me, that will help them continue down this road of keeping your body in balance and homeostasis. And there's lots of practitioners out there that do this. Okay, an example of the only positive feedback mechanism that's considered normal is birth. So during the birthing process, the baby's head is pushing against the wall of the uterus, and that causes the uterus to contract harder, and the harder the head pushes, the harder the contraction. So for whatever reason, they actually consider this a positive feedback mechanism, and the hormone responsible for this is oxytocin. So when the uterine wall is stretched, because the head is pressing against it, it's going to send information to the brain to release more oxytocin to contract harder. This helps with the delivery process.